The way this book starts off is insane. I would recommend, obviously. 2 books from the same author in my top 5. The last time they go check on her, she's in her crib, she had disappeared. This is like a book that I will actually reread. Okay, hello guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. We are doing a little sit down chit chat video today. You guys highly requested me to do a roundup of the books that I read in 2020 and my top 5 that I would recommend for you guys to read in 2021 if you haven't already. So we're sitting here, we're on my lovely couch. I'm drinking my new favorite at-home coffee combo, which is the Starbucks iced coffee with the Starbucks white mocha creamer. Chef's kiss, so good. Literally, highly recommend. Got it at Target if you want to go out and get it. And we are going to talk about all 14 books that I read in 2020. And you might not think 14 is a lot, but I did not pick up a book and read it until September of 2020. So I was the type of person who was like, I don't read, and I really didn't. Like, I just didn't read. I would read a self-help book like here and there, but I thought they were so boring. Like, were they good? Yes, but like so boring. So it was never exciting for me to read anything really, because all I thought I should read is self-help books, because that way it's productive, and that like I'd be wasting my time if I read a fiction novel, which is in fact false. And I 10 out of 10 recommend in general. My screen time has gone down by 5 hours. Okay, it's usually like at max 3 hours and something a week, which is really good for me. And during quarantine, it was like up to the 9-hour range, and that was like very unacceptable, especially after I watched The Social Dilemma. I thought that I was being controlled by social media. So I was like, wow, okay. I took up reading, and I have actually fallen in love with it. My favorite genre is thriller, mystery, psychological thrillers to be exact. So good. You get so like deep into it, and then you forget about all the shit that's going on in the world, and you're just very into you and this book, and it's like so intense and it's so good. So I found like some really good favorites that I think that you guys will really enjoy too if you haven't read them already. I'm gonna go through and list all the books that I've already read, but if you want to keep up with my reading stuff and all these new books that I'm gonna read in 2021, because I got 5 books for Christmas, so we're like locked and ready to go, then definitely make sure you're following on Instagram. I have a whole highlight for books, and I tell you guys when I'm starting one, so you guys can start with me if you want to read along. I kind of have a little book club situation happening on Instagram, and then I always post on my story what I think about the book, rate it out of 10, like give my thoughts, give a little inside scoop. But in this video, we're gonna go a little more in depth. Okay, so I'm gonna go through all the books I read, give you a very short summary, and then my top 5, I'll elaborate a lot more on them. But that way you guys can just kind of get a gist if you're like, ooh, that sounds good, I wanna read it. So first book is The Couple Next Door. This is actually the first book I read, and this is what made me fall in love with reading, so this is amazing for this book. Basically, it's about this couple who goes to a dinner party next door and leaves their newborn child, like a couple months old, at their house. It's like a duplex situation, so their houses are connected. So the mom and the dad of this baby keep switching off back and forth, like going to check on her. And then the last time they go check on her, she's in her crib, she had disappeared. And they have no idea who took her. They end up calling the cops. A private investigator gets involved, and they're trying to find their daughter, who was kidnapped in the middle of the night while they were at a dinner party next door. So good. Next up, The Guest List. So good again. It's about this couple who throws this huge wedding on this island off the coast of Ireland, and I like Lucy Foley a lot, who is the author of this book. I actually got another book of hers called The Hunting Party for Christmas this year. Basically, I'm just gonna read you the back because this is all you need to know. It says, the bride, the plus one, the best man, the wedding planner, the bridesmaid, all have a secret, all have a motive, but only one is a murderer. The ending of this book is so good, and the whole time you're trying to figure out who dies, and I was very into it. It was really good. I liked it a lot. Silent Patient. I liked it. It didn't live up to my expectations because I had very high expectations, because a lot of people said really good stuff about it. But basically, this woman murders her husband and then never speaks a word after, and her psychiatrist, is that who it is? Psychotherapist, I knew it was like that. And then this psychotherapist becomes very intrigued in her and her story, and he is determined to make her talk and figure out why she ended up murdering her husband. It was really good, I recommend. Next up, Before She Knew Him. This book is so good. I just had to shut the blinds because the lighting just gets super weird, so sorry. Anyways, continuing on. So this couple, Hen and Lloyd, move to this suburban, nice new neighborhood. She has a bipolar disorder, which is interesting. And they go to their new neighbor's house because the new neighbors of the place that they just moved into invited them over for a little dinner party, getting together with the new neighbors, trying to get to know them. So Hen and her husband are getting a tour of their new neighbor's house. And while they're on the tour, they go into their neighbor Matthew, his office, and Hen notices this object of a murder case that happened like a few months ago, and that was like the murder weapon, and they couldn't find it, and she just noticed it in her neighbor's office. And now this whole time she's like, holy crap, did we just move next to a murderer? And she's trying to figure it out. She's trying to expose him, and things get very crazy and very interesting. I really liked this one a lot. Before She Knew Him by Peter Swanson. Generally like female authors over male authors. It's not like it's just, I noticed myself reading more female author books. I don't know why, but I actually really liked this book a lot, and I'm interested to read more of his books. I wrote another one called The 8 Perfect Murders. So that's one that's definitely been on my list, but it's so good. It's definitely a psychological thriller, and I would really recommend. I will have all these books linked down below, by the way. So next up, I wanted to talk about Where the Crawdads Sing. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I did not like this book. This book took me literally forever to finish. I was very, very uninterested. The author of this book is a legit marine biologist though, so she definitely went into intricate detail talking about the marsh and everything. It is a coming of age story, but basically this girl, Kaya, was born into a really shitty situation where she had terrible parents who pretty much abandoned her when she was really young, so she had to raise herself growing up in the marsh, and then this murder happens, and because everyone knows her to be such an outcast and not like anyone else in the town who lives like more in the town, they instantly think that she did it, and she's like had a past with this person who was murdered, so people like automatically assume it's her, and it's like it's very much so a coming of age story. It was just really hard for me to get through, and a lot of people love this book, and then I've heard a lot of people don't like this book, so it's either you like it or you don't like it. I definitely think it's worth reading because it was a good book, but the ending is what made me think that this book was really good, because it took like a while for it to pick up, but honestly in the last 100 pages it's like really, really good. There's like this whole court case and stuff, and it's good, so I would recommend. But I didn't love it, but I would still recommend reading it, you know what I mean? Okay, next up is We Were Liars. So basically this book is about 4 best friends. They call themselves the Liars. They live on a private island off the coast of Massachusetts, not Martha's Vineyard, but you know, close. So basically the story revolves around this family called the Sinclair family, and they're all like very high class. This man there's literally a family tree in this book, so it's kind of cool. But this man has 3 daughters, and then they each have a house. And then they all have children, so it's a very wealthy family. But basically it's told from the viewpoint of one of the daughters named Cadence. Her and her cousins form this like friend group. They call themselves the Liars, and they always spend their summers on this island, and Cadence doesn't come back to the island for a couple years, and something happened where she doesn't remember a tragic incident. Like she physically can't remember it, and no one will tell her what happened. So she's going this whole time, the next summer that she finally comes back to the island, and everyone's like, oh, we're not supposed to tell you what happened, blah, blah, blah. So basically throughout the book you're reading and you're trying to figure out why she can't remember what exactly happened. And I have a few issues with this book. The Sinclair family, I think, have a lot of personal developing to do, and it just bothered me that throughout the entire book, like there was no personal growth in the Sinclair family. I'm trying not to give too much away in this book because it's kind of hard not to, but you're trying to figure out why they're called the Liars and what exactly happened to Cadence and why she can't remember, and the end is kind of sad, and I didn't love it. We Were Liars, I read it. Okay, let's just move on. We just really need to move on. Okay, next up is Then She Was Gone. This one's a little twisted. Like, this one could be a little dark, and I could see some people thinking it's very, very dark. Basically, it's about this woman named Laurel Mack, and she had this beautiful daughter that she loved so much named Ellie, and Ellie disappeared. I'm pretty sure she disappeared in high school. So 10 years later, Laurel is trying to piece her life back together, basically mourning the loss of her daughter, and she meets this guy, Floyd, and Floyd has a daughter named Poppy, and she starts dating Floyd. And Poppy, she's young, she's a kid, so Laurel is just infatuated with Poppy. She's like, oh my goodness, she's so pretty, she reminds me of my daughter Ellie. And Floyd eventually like discovers like, oh, you're the woman whose daughter who disappeared, like that's really sad. And then a lot of twists and turns start happening. When her daughter disappeared, the police suspected that she just ran away, but she was like, my daughter would never run away, like something must have happened. But they like no evidence showed anything other than her running away. And then she starts really questioning, like, did she actually run away? Was she murdered? Like, she starts to try and figure out what actually happened to her daughter, and then a bunch of stuff starts unraveling, and it's literally crazy. So a little dark. The ending was sad. I did shed a tear out of me feeling really bad for one of the characters, but I thought it was really good, so I would definitely recommend this one. Okay, the next 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are my top 5. So we're just gonna go over them, and I'm obsessed with these books that I'm about to share with you guys. So we're gonna start off with one of the books that I just finished, and that is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. My top favorite book is also by Colleen. Colleen's amazing. We love Colleen. This is the first romance thriller that I've read, and it was amazing. I'm obsessed with it. I gave it a 10 out of 10 on Instagram. Basically, it's about this girl named Lily, and she ends up falling in love with this guy. I'm pretty sure you pronounce his name Ryle, which is really funny because in the beginning of the book, I thought it was Riley, but it's not Riley. I think it's Ryle. And he's a neurosurgeon. So Lily's all excited because she just moved to Boston, and she feels like her life is working out really well. Kind of like too good to be true with this neurosurgeon. He's a pretty sensitive guy though, but she meets him and everything. But one of her boyfriends in the past, things start popping up with him, so now she starts questioning her relationship with Ryle, and then her old relationship with this kid named Atlas, and it's just like a very dramatic situation. I will say, trigger warning, there is like a lot of talk about abusive relationships in this book, so if that's something that you're not very comfortable reading about, or you don't want, you think that it wouldn't be in your best interest to read about abusive relationships, I wouldn't recommend. I do think the ending is very good though, and might help some people, but I really liked it. The ending was so sweet. I cried in this one as well. We love a book that makes you cry, but it's one of those books where you just feel every emotion with the characters, and I think it's Colleen Hoover and her writing style. It helps you really connect to the characters and really see from their point of view. I just really liked this book, and literally every message that I got on Instagram when you guys were telling me about how much you love this book was positive, so I definitely recommend this. This is in my top 5. Next book in my top 5 is You Are Not Alone. I actually have 2 books from the same author in my top 5, which is Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. You Are Not Alone is about this girl named Shay Miller who witnesses this other girl commit suicide, and then she genuinely feels so affected and so bad that she shows up to this girl's funeral and then starts becoming friends with this girl's friend and makes up this whole intricate story about how she was her friend and she knew her. And it turns out the girl who committed suicide was in this really close-knit circle of friends who Shay is like all excited about, because she's like, oh amazing, like I'm gonna have friends. They think that I was friends with this girl, so I'll probably like fit in really well with them, but Shay doesn't really realize the friend group that she's joining is a friend group of not the nicest gals. They just live a very glamorous life, and the inside of the book, this is just a perfect way to explain it to you guys. They live a life of glamour and perfection, and they always get what they desire. These 2 sisters that she's just trying to become friends with own a PR firm, and they're like the head honchos of this friend group. And it says that Shay thinks she wants their life, but what they really want is hers. So they start trying to like manipulate her and control her, and things get crazy. And it's really good. So I would recommend this one. Okay, The Wife Between Us, top 3. There is something about this book that I just loved. So I'm gonna read the back to you because I physically cannot tell you what this book is about because you have to go into the book knowing nothing. It's like you read part 1 and you're like, what did I just read? I'm so confused. And then part 2, you start to like realize what's going on. And then by part 3, you're like, holy crap. So the back of this book says, when you read this book, you will make many assumptions. You will assume that you are reading about a jealous ex-wife. You will assume she is obsessed with her replacement, a beautiful younger woman who is about to marry the man they both love. You will assume you know the anatomy of this tangled love triangle. Assume nothing. That's what the back of the book says. Doesn't that sound so good? It is so good. Literally every one of you guys who messaged me on Instagram, which I love when you guys message me, like your reviews of the books, you're like, oh my God, I just read this and it was so good, you were so right, like blah, blah, blah. I love when I get those messages because it just makes me excited. It makes me want to like reread all of these again. But a lot of you guys have messaged me saying that this book is something else. And I'm like, it is something else. It's just something else. You just really need to read it. If you're gonna read anything in 2021, and you haven't read anything or any of these that I'm saying, this one should be in your top 3. My number 2 of 2020, My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. This book is my, like literally my second favorite. It's so good. So basically, it's about this husband and wife who are serial killers. And it's told from the husband's perspective. And the whole time, you're like, oh my gosh, are they gonna get caught? And you don't want them to get caught because you like develop a liking for the couple and you end up liking them, so you don't want them to get caught. I just feel like I need to read the back to you guys. Okay, because the back of this book is good. Like I don't want to tell you guys too much because I love these books so much. I want you to be able to read them and experience it for yourself without me giving anything away. It says, our love story is simple. I met a gorgeous woman. We fell in love. We had kids. We moved to the suburbs. We told each other our biggest dreams and our biggest secrets. Excuse me, darkest secrets. And then we got bored. We look like a normal couple. We are your neighbors, the parents of your kid's friend, the acquaintances you keep meaning to get dinner with. We all have our secrets to keep a marriage alive. Ours just happens to be getting away with murder. So this whole time, they're luring, I don't want to like give away like who they kill, but they're luring these people in, and the way that they do it is crazy, and the ending is insane. It's something else. You just really need to read it. It's really good. And I really like that it's told from the husband's perspective, and the way he talks about his wife is really interesting, and I would recommend, obviously, or else I wouldn't be telling you guys this. Anyways, read that one. And now we're just gonna end with a bang. I'm sure you guys could have all already guessed what my number 1 book is because it's literally everyone's number 1 book. Every time I hear something and someone's like, what's your favorite book you read in 2020? They all say Verity, but it's because it's so good. This is like a book that I will actually reread probably because first of all, again, Colleen Hoover is amazing. This book was everything I've ever liked out of a psychological thriller and like a romance and just a psychological thriller thrown in a book. Like it was perfect. It was just so good. Anyways, it's about this girl named Lowen, which I really like the name Lowen. Lowen is an author, but she's struggling to kind of like take off her career, and the way this book starts off is insane. Like your attention's grabbed in the first like millisecond of this book. It's really, really good. So Lowen Ashley is a struggling writer on the brink of financial ruin when she accepts a job offer of a lifetime. Jeremy Crawford, husband of best-selling author Verity Crawford, has hired Lowen to complete the remaining books in a successful series his injured wife is unable to finish. Lowen arrives at the Crawford home ready to sort through Verity's notes and outlines, hoping to find enough material to get her started. What Lowen doesn't expect to uncover in the chaotic office is an unfinished autobiography Verity never intended for anyone to read. Page after page, bone-chilling admissions, including Verity's recollection of the night their family was forever altered. Lowen decides to keep the manuscript hidden from Jeremy, knowing its contents would devastate the already grieving father. But as Lowen's feelings for Jeremy begin to intensify, she recognizes all the ways she could benefit if he were to read his wife's words. After all, no matter how devoted Jeremy is to his injured wife, a truth this horrifying would make it impossible for him to continue to love her. So basically she's in this woman's office as she is upstairs, bedridden, needs somebody to help her like eat, move, everything. She's reading this woman's autobiography that is revealing all these secrets and all these crazy things that she's done. And she's upstairs, so she's reading these crazy things about her. She's falling in love with her husband, and it is so crazy. And she's staying in the house. And this isn't a spoiler, but like, some people ask me if this book's scary because they've heard it's scary. There's like a few instances where you're like, oh my gosh, I was never scared, but I also love a good scary movie. They don't really like I get scared, but I don't really, I'm not like a jumpy person. You know what I mean? There's like a few instances where she thinks she sees Verity, and it's like a little like jumpy, I guess you could say, but in a good way. Like, it's really, really good. Basically, my best friend Haven read this and she hates any scary things, and she was like, wow, that was an amazing book, and she read it in a couple hours. So I would recommend so much. Also, just the chapters are short and the words are really big, so it's really easy to read, which is nice. And oh, it's just so good. It's like you want something to happen and then it happens, and then you're like, it's just so good. It's like one of those that like you could probably finish in a day because you're just gonna keep turning the pages. Actually, the last 5 that I read that I just told you about are like that. Anyway, those are the books that I read in 2020, and they're all amazing and really good, and I'm excited for 2021. First book I'm reading is The Perfect Marriage. It's over there by Geneva Rose, who I think might be from Charlotte or something like that. I don't really know. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm excited because now we can kind of turn this into a tradition, and I can do this again at the end of 2021 and tell you guys about the books that I read. But that time we might need to like break it down a little bit, because instead of 4 months, now I'm gonna have 12 months to read, and so we're probably gonna need to do a little bit of condensing. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Colin just got home, and we are gonna go get on with the rest of our day. Get on with our day. We're gonna go do some stuff. So yeah, definitely make sure you guys are subscribed if you are new here. I don't usually make videos like this. I usually do weekly vlogs, daily vlogs, fitness, health, fashion stuff, but we always love to switch things up. So we're creating new traditions. It's fun. Definitely comment down below any books that I didn't mention that I should read, or if you think I would like it, or if you have read these books, comment down below what you thought about them. And if you made it to the end of this video, I love you so much. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys on Sunday for a weekly vlog. Bye.